And welcome in to Tennessee Tuesday. It's April the 21st. I'm John Blankenship, your host this evening for the program. We're glad you're here with us watching live on the different locations such as SCV Chat on Facebook and YouTube, and also Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat's network. Of course, those two locations, Facebook and YouTube as well, and TennesseeTuesday.com. Many locations that you can find us and watch the program this evening. And our special guest tonight, as you see on the screen, is Mr. Roy Hudson. He is the Army of Tennessee councilman, and we'll be talking with him tonight also about his campaign for Lieutenant Commander in Chief. So he'll be joining us this evening for a great program. And we want to first start out with our disclaimer tonight that the views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are not those of the SCV, its GEC, also divisions, brigades, camps, and other subsidiaries of our organization. These are entirely our own opinion tonight. And as we've got that disclaimer started and kicked off, let's welcome in Mr. Roy Hudson. Roy, good evening. How are you?
Well, good evening, John. Doing fine. Fighting off a little cold, but I'm here.
Well, yeah, I know you've been busy. You've been traveling all over up to Virginia. I think you said about 13 hours from home. So you've been at the division reunion in Virginia, and you may have picked up a little something while you're there, a little cold or something.
Yeah, I brought something home.
That's part of it. Crowds. It's this time of year, so hope you get feeling better. And I think you'll make it through the show just fine tonight. And we've got a good program lined up.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go ahead and say hello to a few folks that are joining us this evening. And some of the folks around the area there, Mr. Owens from Virginia saying hello tonight, joining on YouTube. Also others, Johnny Jenkins joining us tonight there from Springfield, Missouri. Here from the McBride camp on with us again this weekend. Also, Ryan Rogers from the Alabama division. He's joining and watching the program tonight. One of our Tennessee division members, Elliot Jackson, who was just elected a lieutenant brigade commander this weekend at our division reunion. He's joining us tonight. From down your way, Kim from the Kirby Smith Camp 1209 is joining us tonight, a regular viewer here on the program. We always appreciate Kim being here with us tonight. Also, Mr. Floyd Harvey from the Keller Camp in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Enjoyed the national reunion there just a few years ago in Hot Springs. It was a good weekend there. Also, hello to some other folks there joining us in Tullahoma. And good to see him here with us tonight. Our Kentucky Division Commander, Kyle Thompson, he is on with us here this evening. Hope all is going well with Kyle tonight. Appreciate him being here. They're getting ready to get busy up that way in Kentucky as the national reunion, Roy, is going to be kicking off in July. It's going to be a big one. They've been working hard up in Lexington.
They've done a great job so far.
So let's see. Also joining us, our Lieutenant Commander of the Tennessee Division, Rich Garcia, on tonight from the Gainsborough's Invincibles Camp. We appreciate him being here tonight. Also, Mr. David Pope joining us from East Tennessee from Camp 87. Good to see David. He also won a division award this weekend, and we'll try to talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. Also, somebody I think you know there, Roy, that's watching down your way.
I may have seen that person before.
Linda there with us this evening. Also, David King joining us from Tampa. And, of course, our division chaplain, Jim Collinsworth, joining us from just down the road at our camp here, Camp 209 in Humboldt. So good to have Jim and all the others that are viewing with us this evening. So you may be asking, John, what is the discussion we are talking about? We've mentioned national reunion coming up. It's an election year in the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And we have on with us this evening the current Army of Tennessee councilman. And we'll talk a little bit about things happening in the Army tonight, too. But also we'll be talking about Roy's campaign for the second seat in the organization, Lieutenant Commander in Chief. And we'll talk about some of his vision that he has for our organization this evening. And it's going to be a good program and just a good casual discussion tonight. So I hope you'll stay here with us and enjoy the program. So, Roy, let's kind of talk a little bit about first, if you would, a little bit about what's going on with the Army of Tennessee, as currently you're the AOT councilman. So what have you been up to in that world?
I've been very busy, of course, within the Army, taking care of issues that need to come to the GEC. Commander Thompson will tell you I've been pretty busy with some things that have had to go in Kentucky. But the biggest news, I guess, affects the entire organization, and I'm really excited about it. When I ran for AOT councilman, I ran under the idea that we needed to improve communications, both from the camps to the GEC and GEC back down to the camp. And about it, last October, I guess it was, Commander-in-Chief Kennedy asked me to head the communications committee. And someone said, we have one of those, but they haven't done anything. And I said, well,
Mhm.
if you give me a committee, it'll get something done. So it's some really great people that were on that committee. Jamie Graham and Tony
Yeah.
Griffin and Eric Pravetti and Frank, our editor, Frank
Mhm.
Powell, and Moose was
Yep.
Moose was
Yep.
on the
Mhm.
committee, and we just had a really good group of people, and we broke the committee into two areas. One, to look at something that needed fixed for the last 20 years, and that's the website at headquarters. We've all had terrible experiences with that, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really needed to be fixed. And also to look at how we're going to communicate on social media. And
Mhm.
so what we came up with this past GEC meeting in March was we came up with solutions, and we came up with multiple bids, 3 bids to do a whole new website
Yeah.
that was really user friendly. It had accentuate recruiting and accentuate communication amongst the Army commanders and the GEC and so forth. So um, headquarters, they told us that when they got that contract signed and the check given to the company, in 30 days they would have us a new website. So we ought to be getting really close to the
Close to
brand
it.
new website, which I'm excited because for 4 years I haven't been able to get into the protected section of our website, and I'm a councilman now, and
Yeah.
I it, it just doesn't recognize my email. So tickled to death about that because we've talked about it for 20 years. That's happening. The
Well,
other
Roy,
things
let's
happening.
mention there, if you would, for
Sure.
folks that are watching tonight, the domain name, scv.org, that's not changing. It's just a
No.
new redesign, redeveloped site.
Redesign, redevelop site with a new company that's going to be running the entire professional company that can run it full time and not somebody just doing the best job they can when they have
Sure.
time. So, I mean, that's the way we had to start off, but we're at the point now where we really needed it. So it's just really exciting. If you can see what this company that got the contract can do, and we've had Zoom meetings with them, and what they can do is amazing. So I'm excited. Plus, a big part of this, in the last Zoom meeting we had amongst the committee, we had all 4 full-time employees of the
Mm-hmm.
SCV involved in the committee, and they were excited and on fire. Matter of fact, the ladies from our store, our SCV store,
Yeah.
said basically that the money we would save in fees that we've been charged by 6 different credit card companies and so forth
Mm-hmm.
would make the monthly stipend.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's actually going
Mm-hmm.
to pay for itself, which is, again, as a guy that looks at business, that's pretty exciting.
Well, Roy, I like what you said that you got the staff involved. That's always important. Me and you both had roles outside the SC, and if you get your employees involved and hear what they have to say and get them involved in it, that's always important.
Oh, absolutely. That was just a great thing, and have all 4 of them sit there and agree on everything that was put forth in the presentation. That's a home run because they're the daily users every day.
Yeah.
People like you and I use it occasionally, but they live with it. So that's pretty exciting. And
So that committee, the communications committee there you worked with, and great things there. Looking forward to seeing that new website soon.
oh, we're all waiting for the call that, hey, it's 10/8, it's ready to go now. So that's exciting. And then the other part of the committee, once we made the presentation, Harrison Dawes was put in charge of that part of it because he's got a great background
Mm-hmm.
in social media. And basically, we've come up with Facebook, X, and
Instagram was it Instagram.
Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
X, and Facebook. We're going to be going live on those probably in this very shortly here. So the SCV will actually be on 3 social media platforms. We've never been there before. we need that to reach out to people because people communicate differently nowadays. So I'm excited about all of it because communications, you know, I conducted leadership training in 48 states in my
Hmm.
professional life, federal agencies, state agencies, local agencies. And the biggest thing that gets a leader in trouble is not communicating. You
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
return emails and phone calls and communication of any type, or people think you're not interested, and then they kind of fall off. So I think both of these things are going to help us a great deal as far as getting the word out there and letting people know from the camps and all the way up the chain that we care about people and we want to service them because you should be a servant leader if you're a good leader.
Absolutely. Good information. So you guys have been busy on the Army of Tennessee level, and here in just a little bit, as you're going to be seeking the Lieutenant Commander in Chief position at the July reunion, the national reunion, that
Yes, sir.
election. We're going to be talking more about your vision and your platform tonight. We've got some notes here and some things we want to touch on and let the audience know where you stand on these things and some of the things you've got in store. But Roy, before we take our first break and get into those, tell me a little bit about the background for folks that don't know you. Who is Roy Hudson? What's your interest in history? How'd you get involved in the SCV?
Well, without getting too long-winded, I come from a very southern family. We were hill people from Virginia, um, poor, dirt poor, um, but strict Southern Baptist. Um, my mama would walk around the house singing Bonnie Blue Flag before I ever even knew what it was. And I got pictures of family reunions with my mother waving a battle flag in the background. So
Oh, wow.
that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And my grandfather, who I love dearly, he was born in the 1870s when the Yankees still occupied Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me a lot of things, and it kind of perked my interest. And my grandmother, you know, she had a beautiful picture of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, the last meeting, up on her wall. And she said every Southerner knows who they are and should have that picture in their house. So
Yeah.
so I start reading. I'm a voracious reader. I've probably got a library, 300 books, but I started reading as a young kid. When I was in the fourth grade, they sent a letter home to my mom, said, if he keeps this up, he'll be the historical advisor of the president, because I was,
Oh,
I
wow.
was so involved with it. So anyway, um, that kind of started my interest. My family moved to Maryland when I was in the third grade. Yeah, but Dad needed to find work, and there was work
Mm-hmm.
up there, and there wasn't anywhere we were from. So we moved up there, and schooling went well. Uh, they called my parents in, said he's really bright. We want to skip him a grade, so they skipped me over seventh grade, and uh, and that was all great. And I got really good grades until about 15 years old, and then I started to learn about cars and girls, and
Mm-hmm.
that went out the window. So uh, I got out of high school barely, and went directly in the military. I went in the U.S. Army, right out of high school.
Yeah.
Um, Wound up serving our country in Vietnam. Came home, um, kind of goofed around for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
doing what young guys do,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
finally decided that I had to get serious about life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to my dad, who's my hero, always will be. And I asked him, what do you think I should do? And he was working at the Maryland State Penitentiary. And I asked him, you think I should go to the pen? Because I was a high school educated kid.
Yeah.
And he said, no, don't go there. He said, if you want to do something, think about law enforcement, because at least you got a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple months later, a buddy of mine called me. He said, hey, I'm going down to take the test for the police department. I went down with him. Short story long, I passed. He didn't. And 30 days later, I found myself in the police academy. I started a 49-year career
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
with the Baltimore City Police Department from 72 to 79. And then I moved to Florida in 79, went to work for the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. Held every job there, from detective to, deputy to sergeant to lieutenant to captain to
Mm-hmm.
major. Uh, I controlled the two sections of the sheriff's office. I was the director of law enforcement operations. I was also the director of administration. And in those positions, I was responsible for 500 people and a $50 million budget. During my time there, I got a reputation for being able to go and fix problems. So I got hired by a police department when I retired from the sheriff's office that has had issues, and I had to go in there and basically hire some people, fire some people, and get them on track, get them going in the right direction. An opportunity opened up at the Florida Sheriff's Association. I went there as director of law enforcement operations. FSA is the second largest 501c3 law enforcement in the country. So that gave me 501c3 experience, which I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And so I worked there. During that time, I started, I set up the training academy and the curriculum for all the sheriffs. That every sheriff who gets selected now goes through that academy and the curriculum. And I coordinated statewide operations and stuff. Retired from there. I was going to go home and work on hot rods and muscle cars with my best friend. And that lasted for about a year. And sadly, he's another vet. He took his life. And set it up for me to find it. And I helped his family get through that. And God works in mysterious ways. My phone rang. A lady called me, says, "Roy, there's a job that's made for you." I said, "I don't want a job." She says, "You really ought to put in for it." I prayed about it, and finally, at the very last minute, I hit the send button, and went through a bunch of interviews. Anyway, I got the job, and I was hired as criminal justice director for the St. Lucie County. So I went in there. They had issues. I straightened them out. I got them brand new equipment, got them new facilities, got them trained, got them actually. My pre-trial part of that program, they became the third state accredited pre-trial program in the state. So very proud of what we accomplished there. And then my wife came to me at one point and said, "You know what? It's about time that you really retired." But I'm a workaholic by nature, so I had trouble, real trouble, because my dad always put in, if a good man works and takes care of his family, a man that don't work is no good. So anyway, 5 years ago, I finally decided to pull the plug, and I figured I'd dedicate the rest of my life to the SCV. As far as my interest in the SCV, about 1990, I was reading a Civil War Times magazine before computers. I read an article it was signed off Commander Baxter Perkinson from the John Quincy Marr camp, I believe in Petersburg, Virginia. And I said, "What is this Sons of Confederate Veterans? And why don't I know about it?" I wrote the magazine. They eventually hooked us up. And Mr. Perkinson said, "Well, I'll find you a camp." And he called me back and said, "There are no camps near you." So I became a member of the John Quincy Marr camp in February of 1991. And 2 years later, I started the Nathan Bedford Forest Camp 1595 in Fort Pierce, Florida.
Very good name for a camp.
Of course it is. Now, the camp is still there. I left that camp when I moved to Tallahassee for the job with the Sheriff's Association. So when I came back, the camp was still there, but they changed the name on me. So now it's the private George Washington Thomas camp. So anyway, my camp is still there, but still going. I've held every job. For 10 years, I was a camp commander and the adjutant. That's how I started my SCV career. So I've done everything at the camp level. I am currently a lieutenant commander for a Florida division. I was the inspector in chief under Commander Bo Shears for 2 years, and that was a learning experience. But it gave me time to sit at the table and observe and watch and see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And then I was asked to run for AOT councilman, which I am now. I was successfully ran for that, and I've got more time at the table. And that's kind of, and also, by the way, I'm also the aide de camp in my camp because I'm training new officers that are coming through, new commanders and lieutenants. And I'm also a major with the mechanized cavalry.
Very busy man. And we're going to be talking about training here in a little while. I know
Okay,
that's
good.
part of your platform. That'll be good discussion
Yes, sir.
coming up here in just a little bit. So we know all about who Roy Hudson is now. So we'll go ahead, Roy, and we'll take our first break. Then we'll be coming back and talking a little bit more about your platform and some things you'd like to work on and some of your vision for the SCV. So if you'll hang around with me, we'll be back here in just a couple of minutes.
I'm right here.
All right, Roy Hudson is our guest tonight here on Tennessee Tuesday, and we'll be right back here in just a few minutes to talk more with Roy and his platform tonight as he's a candidate for Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the SCV. But tonight, let's go ahead and say thank you to our show sponsors tonight. We couldn't do this without these fine individuals. You see their names scrolling at the bottom of the screen. You can become a sponsor and supporter and a Patreon supporter as well by going to scvchat.com. You'll find all the details and the different levels that are available to you of how you can sponsor this program and all the programs that you hear. Of course, you can start out there with just $2.50 a month, which is the entry level, and that's the Feed a Moose level. And I know Moose is getting ready to wrap up college here soon, but he still needs you to take care of him. Also, $10 is the Real Chathead level, and the $30 is the merchandise level. Well, you'll have some opportunities to get some merchandise, as well as others we're going to be talking about are our show sponsors tonight, which are $80 a month. And we'll be telling you about those coming up here in just a moment. So scvchat.com, you can go there and you can message and learn more about the different sponsorships that are available to you and how you can support this program and all of the programs that you hear on SCV Chat and Tennessee Tuesday. So we appreciate those sponsors. And tonight, let's say thank you to our regular show sponsors, Dr. Chris Cummings. There you see Dr. Cummings, of course, is in Mississippi. If you're experiencing knee pain or having other health issues, you can go visit Dr. Cummings. A great doctor, a great SCV supporter, and a longtime member of our organization as well. So we appreciate Dr. Cummings and his support of SCV Chat. Also, 31st Reg Engraving. You can visit them at 31stregengraving.com. You see some of the many products that they have to offer there for you. And, of course, you've seen the bracelets that Moose has as well and many other products. Go check them out at 31stregengraving.com, the 31st Regiment Engraving Company. We appreciate their sponsorship here of Tennessee Tuesday. Also, past Commander-in-Chief Larry McClooney there in his new book, Paradox of Freedom, A History of Black Slaveholders in America. A great book. I have a copy of that. And if you haven't purchased yours, you can go to booksbylarry.com and get that new release, as well as many of his past works that he has done. A great author, a great educator, and, of course, past Commander-in-Chief. And we appreciate his sponsorship as well this evening. Also, Beauregard's Taylor, they're a family business driven proudly, offering authentic War Between the States reproductions, T-shirts, reproduction flags, lapel pins, and more. They have a website, beauregardstaylor.shop, and you can see the many different products that they offer. Beauregard's Taylor, one of our sponsors tonight as well. We do want to say thank you to the museum at Market Hall in Charleston, South Carolina. Got to see them at the National Reunion a few years ago in Charleston, a great museum. And you've learned a lot about them here recently as they were on the program with Moose. Again, a great museum you need to go check out. There's all the details on the screen. You can donate, become a friend of the museum as well, and purchase great things from their gift shop. And, of course, if the flag is out, they are open. The museum at Market Hall, their hours are Thursday through Sunday from 11 until 4. Also tonight, the Sam Davis Home and Museum, another one of our sponsors tonight at the $80 a month level that you can join as well. SamDavisHome.org is the website you can go learn more about in Smyrna if you've never been there, and make a trip to Tennessee. And I believe you will thoroughly enjoy this. The House Museum, you will have the museum to go inside as well and see the many different artifacts. Visit the property there, and, of course, visit the grave of Tennessee boy hero Sam Davis in his home there, samdavishome.org, if you'd like more information. So thanks to our sponsors tonight of Tennessee Tuesday. We do appreciate them and couldn't do this show without our fine sponsors. So thank you so much. scvchat.com is how you can go and join a sponsor level here at the program.
Was your great-grandfather a traitor or a patriot? Today's politically correct are trying hard to take away the heritage of the brave Confederate soldiers who fought and died for their land. But one thing is certain, they can't change history. Those Confederate soldiers were fighting for the same reason soldiers fight today. They were fighting against homeland invasion. We believe that the desecration of the bravery, patriotism, and honor of those men should not be allowed. They were outmanned and outsupplied, but they were never outfought. They were proud men who believed in fighting to protect their dignity, their homes, and their families. If you're the male descendant of a Confederate soldier, we'd welcome you to join with us in the preservation of that heritage. We're the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Check us out on the internet at scv.org or call us at 800-MY-SOUTH. That's 800-697-6884. Sons of Confederate Veterans, dedicated to preserving the reputation of men like Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and your great-grandfather.
Samuel R. Watkins, 1839 to 1901. Sam Watkins of Murray County, Tennessee, is remembered as one of the most well-known Confederate soldiers through his service and his words. Enlisting as a private in Company H, 1st Tennessee Infantry, Watkins served throughout the war between the states, fighting in many of its hardest battles, including Shiloh, Chickamauga, and Franklin. Like so many soldiers, he endured the hardships of war, witnessing both the courage and the cost of conflict firsthand. After the war, Watkins returned home and later wrote his memoir, Company H, one of the most widely read personal accounts of a Confederate soldier. His writings provide a vivid and human perspective on the everyday experiences of those who served. Today, Sam Watkins is remembered not only for his military service, but for preserving the story of the common Confederate soldier for future generations. To learn more historical facts about Confederate veterans, visit TennesseeSCV.org. And welcome back into Tennessee Tuesday. It's April the 21st. This is episode number 15 of season 2. I'm your host, John Blankenship, with you tonight. Again, we're glad you're watching. A hello to all of the folks that have joined in the last few minutes, and we won't be able to get through all of those on the screen tonight. But again, thank you to those that are watching with us this evening. And a very interesting program so far. As our special guest tonight is Roy Hudson. He currently serves as the Army of Tennessee councilman for the SCV in a role that he was elected to, and now he's seeking the position of Lieutenant Commander in Chief. We've learned a little bit about Roy tonight, and now we want to get into the discussion about his vision and his platform for the upcoming election. And Roy, good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you for having me back, sir.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of what your platform is tonight, and we'll go through, these are not, again, we're not doing like we have previously, just questions. This is more casual conversation, but we'll kind of go through some things and got some notes here. And first, I guess I'd want to ask you, Roy, the position of Lieutenant Commander in Chief, what is that role and its importance in the SCV?
Well, everybody's heard it for years. The recruitment and retention of members is the major job. Of course, the other job is to fill in when the commander-in-chief can't be somewhere and to help the commander-in-chief run the organization. But recruiting and retention are a huge responsibility. And if we want the organization to be successful, we have to not only successfully recruit, but we have to be able to keep those folks on board.
And let's talk a little bit about recruitment and retention. You know, we hear that all the time, Roy, not only in the SCV, but many organizations all deal with this same thing. And I know you've told me that you've got some plans here of kind of how you want to address these things and how we can gain members and keep members.
Well, I have several things that are tangible and then can be done. It's not just forming committees. It's not just doing studies, but it's actually tangible stuff that we can do to improve the organization. A well-run camp will retain members. A camp that isn't well-run will not retain members. A camp that's active will retain members. A camp that is inactive won't retain members. It's pretty basic. There are 3 kind of memberships. It's the person who goes out, gets their certificate, and puts it on the wall, and you never see them again. Yep. And there's not much you can do about those fellas. But the other 2 categories are people that come, they go to some camp meetings, and the camp, they eat and they meet, and they retreat and go home, and that's all they do. And people want to be involved if they join an organization, and that's not much involvement. You've got to be doing stuff. So, and the third person that we get and we lose is someone who goes to a good camp and they get into a personality conflict. There's they bump heads. We're
Yep.
people. We recruit from the
It
human
happens.
race.
Hmm.
It happens. But when it does, our leadership should be very strong to get in the middle of it and kind of get it resolved, because we don't need to lose people over personality conflicts. We are fighting a huge battle, and we're in the minority at this point in this country. If we don't stick together, we're useless. So basically, some of the programs, some of the things that I want to do that I can do as commander in chief. First of all, I want to use geo mapping to advertise for us. And basically, for those that aren't familiar with that, we have the technology right now to be able to target certain areas with advertisements for the SCV. And one of
Hmm.
the things that has been talked about that I'm a big proponent of is pick out the top 3 or 4 war between the states battlefields.
Sure.
Can you imagine now? Now you've sat at home and talked about something on your phone, and then it pops up on your
Hmm.
computer for the next 2 days. Well, that's how that works. If so, say that you get within 500 yards of the battlefield of Gettysburg or Chickamauga, and all of a sudden you get SCV commercials on your phone. And that's stuff that can be done relatively inexpensive compared to print media and that type of thing. So using geo mapping to get our message out there, if you target battlefields, you're already targeting people that are interested in history, regardless of whether they're Southerners or Northerners or whatever. So it's a much better pool to pick from. So that's one of the things I'd like to do.
Let me ask you this, Roy, that you mentioned that.
Yes,
So,
sir.
and understanding what you're talking about there with the geo mapping and getting that target audience, what are we selling them? How do we grab them? They see these ads. What does the content need to be that gets people interested in a variety of ages? We say we want just younger people, but we want older people.
No. Matter of fact, for recruiting attention, I was going to talk about that later. The prime age is 35 to 55. I mean,
Yeah.
young folks we want to get, and we can talk about that later. And I've got plans for doing that. But at 35 to 55, you're pretty much in your career at that point. You're in your marriage at that point. Your children, if you have them, are partially grown, and some people start to lose their mom and dad about that kind, and they
Hmm.
think about their heritage. So that's a really good group to target. But as far as the information, that ad that you played earlier about
Yeah.
was your grandfather, I love that ad, and it speaks to the heart. If you've been told that these kids today are raised to think that their Confederate ancestors were traitors to the country, and that gets your attention when you hear that. If somebody call my grandfather a traitor,
You get personal. You
get
got to get
it,
personal with people and connect
you
with them
do, and
personally.
it gets your hackles up. When I hear that, I used to tell people in my profession that you can call me anything you want to, except a Yankee. So when you start telling me that my granddaddy's a traitor, then those are fighting words. But you have to do something like that to set the hook, to get them to pay attention. There's some more advertising stuff that I have in mind that I'm learning more about. And I think I've heard you and maybe Moose talk about them before.
Mhm.
These shorts,
Yeah.
these
Hmm.
I really think that's a great idea. Something 60 seconds or less to set the hook, then send them to something that's a little bit longer. And if I was lieutenant commander, I would make sure that the SCV comes up with some of these shorts and then has stuff to back it up where we can send folks to. That goes along with also the website being set up to be recruitment friendly. So,
Yeah.
so those are some of the things. I talked about to you a little bit earlier
Hmm.
that how many of us in the SCV have taken a job in a camp and never been trained for it, and
Yeah. Hmm.
everybody raises their hand. One of the ideas I have is Confederate Officer Corps training, and basically what that will do is we will set up training, online training for every position: commander, first lieutenant, second lieutenant, adjutant, treasurer. We'll set up training that people can sit down, take the training over their internet at their house, and when they're done, we'll give them a certificate or something that shows that they've had the training, because a well-run camp is more likely to keep people, they'll retain people, than a camp that isn't well run, where guys aren't trained to do the job. So that's one of the things that I want to do. Another program that I have in mind is Community Service Corps. And that program is already in progress in 2 camps in Florida, and I believe Tom Wood's camp in Tennessee there is looking at it right now.
Mhm.
And the way that started, and I stole this idea. I'll steal any good idea. Uh, one of our brigade commanders, Bob Highball, he's the one that came up with this. And basically, the story that I love to tell is they went to the VFW and the American Legion said, "We're from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. We're the
Mhm.
oldest continuously operating veterans organization in the country." And they say, "You're Confederate? What?" And basically turned their nose up at them and sent them
Mhm.
packing. They came back again, pretty much got the same treatment. And the third time they come back and said, "Listen, we're all here to service veterans. So are you telling me there's no one in your camp that couldn't use a wheelchair ramp?" And they said, "Well,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Fred needs a wheelchair ramp." These guys from that camp in Ocala, they went out on a weekend and built this man a wheelchair ramp at his house so he could get
Wow.
in and out of
Yeah.
his house. Well, that was a home run. Next thing you know, they're getting asked, "Hey, can you come over and clean up a yard or do a little painting?" All of a sudden, they're well received within the other veterans organizations. All of a sudden, we're not the guys in the room planning on killing somebody. We are a
Mhm.
good
Mhm.
Southern patriot. We're a patriotic organization, and that's what we are. That emphasizes our Southern heritage. And this program, Bob has designed a logo and a patch that if we get
Yeah.
this program available to any camp now there's some camps that are already working 100 miles an hour and maybe they don't need it, but a lot of camps do need it. And if they want to get involved in the program, we'll sign them up, we'll get them certified, we'll get them a patch, we'll give them goals and objectives, but we'll get them on the right path to make their camp an active camp. Because if you're not active, then you're kind of useless, really. So we need to be active to attract people and to keep people. One of the things I've been a proponent of for years, a new guy walks in the camp meeting, first thing you do, everybody should get up and greet him
Yeah.
and let him know
Mhm.
he's thought
Mhm.
about and cared about. Second of all, find out what their interest is. Do they want to clean headstones? Do they want
Mhm.
to help set headstones? Do they want to be involved with a parade? Do they want to be in the color guard? Do they want to do reenactments? Find out what they want to do and put their talents to work. Because the longer they sit there and just have a barbecue sandwich and go home, the quicker they're going to leave the
That's
organization.
true.
They
Mhm.
got to be busy with recruitment, anything. So you have to get them rolling and thinking that way. Another tangible thing that I have that I've already talked to somebody who actually will front the money to get this started is Confederate States Radio. It's a
Mhm.
computer radio station. I'm told it'll cost about 15 grand to get off the ground.
Sure.
This guy said he'll support it if the SCV will advertise on it. And as Lieutenant Commander in Chief, you have an advertising budget. As you know, computer
Mhm.
radio advertising is pretty inexpensive. And he's talking about uh, bluegrass, country, classic rock and roll music being
Yeah.
played, and Southern themed programming and SCV themed programming 24/7. The person would just download an app on their phone, and
Mhm.
they got their just like you do with Pandora or
Yeah.
anything else, and
Absolutely.
you would have it to travel with. These are all things that can be done relatively easy. It just takes the will to step out there and say we're going to do this and get it going. I mean, we have to get these people active. We talked about recruiting younger folks. We've had a cadet program, and I think Moose was like the fifth or sixth cadet we ever had in the
Mhm.
program, and that's a wonderful thing. But when all you do is give a little kid a certificate and a lapel pin, they're not going to stay interested.
No, and
Kids,
that's it. They're there, and you just forget about them.
yeah, kids have to be active. So what we
Mhm.
need in our organization is men that are willing to be leaders and make it an active program. Give these kids field trips. Some of the youth camps that we sponsor, get them to the Sam Davis Youth Camp, things like that. But just send them I'm of the school that if you're going to do something worth doing, do it right. So if we're just going to give them a pen and certificate, then I don't see the program is worth doing. But if we want to get some people and be active and get these kids trained up, then certainly it's worth doing. Same thing, we ought to be supporting the UDC with the Children of the Confederacy. That's a pool for us of
Mhm.
young people that are coming up. We ought to be working closely with these other heritage organizations. we have for too long kind of been the best kept secret. We've all laughed about that.
Yeah.
I mean, how is it that I had two grandfathers I know of that were in the UCV and I didn't know about this organization until I was 30
Mhm.
something years old? It's it is
True.
it's insane, and we've got to get it out there. And the way to improve the public image that we're also worried about is stuff like Community Service Corps. You've got to get out there and let people see who you are and let them know that we are veterans. We're a veterans organization and we care about our community. So these are all things that can be done by any camp with a little prodding and a little guidance. And that's what we want to do. You know, Jason Boshears did something a few years ago that I was blown away by, because everybody knows that there were some issues 20 years ago with this organization.
Sure.
It caused
Yeah.
some issues.
Yeah.
Jason reached out and he had, I don't remember, 5 or 6 heritage organizations come to Elm Springs and meet. And you
Mhm.
know what? I'm an SAR guy. I haven't been active for a while because I'm giving my full attention to the SCV. But all of us have a dog in the hunt because, we've said it before, the Confederate stuff is the low hanging fruit. They've
It's
already
true.
proved
Yeah.
they've gone after Washington. They've gone after Jefferson. Heck, they even desecrated the 54th Massachusetts uh,
Yep.
statue in Boston. So we're just a low hanging fruit. These people want to take away all of our American heritage and all of our history. So we need to band together and work together and let some bygones be bygones, and just try to put the train on the track. There's been rough spots with all these organizations in the
Mhm.
past, but new leadership has to move forward. We can't keep looking at the past.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about, you touched on the youth, Roy. We mentioned the educational system that's out
Right,
there now. They don't, and I say Civil War history, war between the states
right.
history. I graduated high school in 2000, so I'm 44. We had very little of that in my time in high school. I mean, I knew it locally because I had an interest in history, but now it's pretty much in these local school systems here. You don't hear anything about it. So how do you
Nope.
gain them as an SCV member when they don't know anything about the war ever happening, and then all they hear is that same narrative?
Well,
How do we get in the educational system and work there?
Well, first of all, we have to go for the audience that we can get to. Right now, I know my campus had some luck with going to homeschooling programs.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, my camp does a history of the flags. When you come into a county fair or something, we're set up. We start with the current American banner and we go through all the Confederate flags and how we got there. And most of the people that have stopped, the adults,
Yeah.
can you come and talk to our homeschooling group? So homeschools are big. I think they're ripe for doing our history. I think they're ripe for living history, and kids love to touch and see and feel. So when they can hold a 3-band infield, when they can hold a sword and a scabbard, when they can put on a kepi, that's a way to hook them and get them interested pretty early. When they can see a reenactment,
Mm-hmm.
that all that is vitally important for us to be able to get these young folks interested. The school system, public school systems right now, I had great hope with the new president that we see
Yeah.
a quick turnaround. It hasn't been as quick as I like to see. We're still working on trying to get approval from the War Department for the Hundley medals to come back, because that
Mm-hmm.
was a foot in the door. So I think we need to go for the people we can get to, which right now is the homeschoolers, and keep trying for the public schools, because you're right. I've got great nieces and nephews that don't know anything about the war between the states. They're public school kids. They said they start learning about history around Vietnam time, and that was
Mm-hmm.
barely touched on. So they don't they don't learn American history. They don't know World War II, World
Yeah.
War One. They don't know any of that. And we were taught all that in school, and it's a real shame. I mean, if you remember, we talked about people that are just trying to destroy history.
Mm-hmm.
The people in London threw a statue of Winston Churchill in the river, in the Thames. My God, the man saved saved England. So it's here, and we have to fight it. So we have to go into the schools the best we can. I just got an email yesterday about one of our camp commanders actually got into a high school here locally and gave out a Hundley. So God bless them.
There you go.
It's
Mm-hmm.
starting to work. So you can't just say, "Oh, they won't allow us." You got to go knock on the door and talk to the people that are in charge of the ROTC programs and try to get their attention and say, hey, we're a veterans group, and this would be nice to be able to give one of your ROTC members. So stuff like that, get a foot in the door. But homeschool is where it's at right now because we can get
Yeah.
all the way in the door there.
Roy, is there a need for a curriculum that maybe the SCV needs to develop? Do we need to work towards something like that, that it's available, that this homeschool group that may be meeting of, say, 20 or 30 families there, and we can offer this available to them that's teaching the history of the war between the states and maybe even a little bit before and a little bit after?
Well, I'm a firm believer in teaching, quote, Southern history, all of the Southern history, not just the war between the states, but of course, war between the states is my favorite area.
Sure.
But we have some very talented educators in the SCV. You know several of them. I know several of them. I would love to see us to have a curriculum that we could go to the homeschooling people in each state and say, here's curriculum for you, and give it to them free. Give it to them electronically.
Absolutely.
Say, here it is. Please use this curriculum. If you have any questions, call one of our people. We'll have a little board of maybe 3 or 4 educators that could field the phone call if something came up or something like that. But absolutely, creating a curriculum and giving it to people. A lot of times, I know some people who have their children in homeschooling, and sometimes they're looking for something to do, a place to go. Where can we go on a field trip? Where can we go? Well, if they had a curriculum like that, they could certainly do it. And then, of course, if you could get that curriculum approved by the state for credit, that would even be better. And that's why having career educators like we have on board with the SCV would be important, because they have the credentials to say, we created this syllabus and this is who we are. So,
it's very important, this slogan you see that I use, because it's our history to tell. If we're not out there, Roy, and we're not educating the public and the young people of our history, there's other people out there that are teaching them something that's not very accurate. So we've got to do our job. We've got to create this and put effort towards it to teach it.
If you won't teach it, they will. And unfortunately, it seems like in the last 40 years, they have the educational system from kindergarten to college. And so that's what you're fighting against. And if it wasn't for people like us who have talked to their families and got neighbors and friends involved and had them look and really open their eyes to what really happened during that time. The old thing, well, it's all about slavery, and we know it wasn't. Anybody who reads knows the real reasons of the war, but people are spoon-fed that, and even they don't even talk about it at all in regular elementary to high school anymore.
It's totally avoided. Anything Southern, especially anything Southern, is evil. It's taboo. Don't talk about that.
Absolutely, and the only people that are going to fix that is us, and that's why we have to get on these different social media platforms. That's why we need to try to get into these private schools and talk to these folks. And we need to, again, people kind of laugh when I talk about it. I'm a real believer in the Hunley, because it is such an interesting story. If one of these kids gets that medal, and the new ones, I believe, have the names of the crew on the back of them, and I've seen some done that way. These kids start reading that, they may just go pick up a book. They may go look out. There's been a couple of movies. They may go look at the movies. Anything to perk their interest. I mean, I was fortunate enough to spend some one-on-one time with Randy Burbage, and nobody knows the Hunley better than Randy. And every time I leave him, I'm kind of awestruck with how deeply he was involved in this. But we have a lot of talent within our organization. We have some smart people that have done tons of research, and we need to utilize these people better. And maybe some of these shorts, followed up by some good educational programs, is exactly what we need to get our message out there.
Yeah. One last question I've got for you, Roy, that I'm going to kind of let you take anything else you have. We mentioned a little bit before we went on about tools that are needed for the camp level. What can SCV National at the national level provide to help the camps grow? What is needed there? What are the camps, as you're serving as councilman, what are the camps saying they need help with?
But usually when camps call a councilman, it's because of an issue, one type or the other, that they're having. Sometimes not so good stuff like disciplinary stuff, and sometimes, but the camps really, I think the camps really are looking for someone in general to say, one, we care about you, and two, this is how to be more productive. This is how to have a better camp. And again, there's been no playbook in the past. It's just been,
Mhm.
Fred's the first lieutenant commander. I'm going to follow. He's going to tell me how to do the job if I get elected. And
Yeah.
we really need to get in a better position for educating our folks and making sure that they have the tools to do the job. It's like everybody in the SCV is not fit to be a spokesman for the SCV if we're questioned by the media. So we have to find those
Mhm.
people that have the tools to be able to do that. Because if we go to a rally somewhere where we're protecting a
Yeah.
monument, they're not going to go to the guy who's educated, who maybe is
That's
wearing
true.
a coat and tie. They're going to go to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that person may or may not hurt the situation. So, it's a matter of educating our people in general. But as far as supporting the camps, we have to give them the tools to be successful. If we don't give them the tools to be successful, we can't blame them when they fold, when not enough people come and they get down below 7 and they can't have enough people for a meeting. I was just talking to a compatriot, and I won't go into the state right now, who's saying their camp's probably going to be folding in July or
Mm.
August.
Mm.
And it breaks my heart to hear that, because that's a camp that was small, but they were very active and very productive. And it's like, what can we do to get you guys fired up again? And I don't know if it's going to be successful or not, but if we don't give these people the tools to do the job, then partly it's on us.
Yeah.
We all say that the organization starts at the camp, and that's our strength, but we got to give the people the tools to be strong.
That's true. Good information. Well, Roy, as we get ready, that's all I've got that I've made notes of. Anything else we need to touch on tonight before we kind of wrap up?
No, I'd just like to say that it's been an honor serving as councilman. I think one thing that I bring to the table that we haven't had for a long time, we've had some good people with good hearts and good intentions, but I'm the first one in a while that has organizational skills, that I, in fact, have run organizations, that I've run a $50 million budget and 500 personnel. I know what it's like to look at an organization, assess it, find out where the weak spots are, and then improve upon it to make the organization more successful. And that's what I want to do for the SCV in the long run, is eventually I want to be in a position to sit there and I've already assessed the organization. I know where we can make improvements. And if I'm ever in the position, I'll try to do that, because I want to see this organization grow. I want to see Southern history honored more than it's been in a long time. And I want to see us be successful. I mean, I love the SCV more than any other thing I've ever been involved with in my
Mm-hmm.
life. I have people say, well, a lot of people complain about the museum. And I said, I love the museum. It's the last place we have to send our kids to get an
That's
education.
true.
My,
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I have left our estate to the museum. That's how much we love it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do things that are going to promote our heritage and put us out there. And if we have people that aren't hard chargers in that, who aren't going to lead from the front, and I'm a lead from the front kind of guy. I'm kind of like a Nathan Bedford Forrest. When you get 32 horses shot out from you, you don't get that sitting in a tent in the rear.
Yeah.
And I'm an infantryman, and we believe in being aggressive. And I think we got to stop being defensive and get offensive if we're going to win this thing.
Absolutely. Well, Roy Hudson's been our guest tonight. Roy, I know you're going to be traveling, and you have been traveling all over the Confederation and all over the country for that matter, and been on the road a lot, but you've got some dates coming up. I know you're going to be with us in Tennessee coming up again, I believe in June, right?
Yes, the third week in June, I'm going to be in Tennessee, and I wanted to put out to any of your Tennessee compatriots there that I will be available. I believe it is June the 17th is a Wednesday. That day is open. So if your camp meets, or you would like to meet with me, or have me come do a historical presentation, or just talk about the election, I'd be more than honored to come and visit your camp anywhere in Tennessee on the 17th. Uh, you can reach out to me, and I'll be glad to communicate with you and put you on my schedule. Again, I hate to waste a day, because I'm busy that entire week, but that Wednesday's wide open.
Absolutely. Well, Roy, if folks want to learn more about your platform and you and reach out to you, what's the ways to contact you? How can they find out more?
Okay, then go to www.scvroyhudson.com. And it's pretty straightforward. It's Roy Hudson, which is a pretty easy name. scvroyhudson.com with www in front of it. You can learn a lot more about my platform. You can learn about my background. You can learn basically where I've been and what I've been doing, and keep up with my campaign that way. And I always return phone calls, emails, or text messages. If you have a personal question you want to ask me my opinion on something,
Yeah.
please feel free to reach out and get a hold of me, and I will be glad to talk to you.
Absolutely. Well, Roy, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and let you finish up your evening. Thank you. Know the door is always open here on Tennessee Tuesday if you'd like to be on with us, or, of course, as still as your role as Army of Tennessee Councilman, anything you need to share with us, be sure to pass it along. We'd be happy to do that for you.
Well, God bless Dixie, and just thank you for the opportunity, sir. I appreciate it. Thank
you, Roy. I appreciate Roy Hudson joining us tonight here on Tennessee Tuesday as we continue along on this April the 21st. And we need to go ahead and take one more break. Then we're going to come back. We'll get ready to wrap up the show. A few news items. We'll talk about our Tennessee Division reunion that took place in Morristown just this past weekend. A great time there. And looking forward to telling you all about the activities we had there and some other events coming up. We'll be right back after this. Major James Daniel Richardson, 1843 to 1914. Major Richardson of Rutherford County, Tennessee, was a Confederate veteran, statesman, and historian whose life reflected both service and leadership. During the war between the states, Richardson left his studies to join the Confederate Army, serving nearly 4 years with the 45th Tennessee Infantry, rising from private to adjutant and officer. He was wounded during the Atlanta campaign, carrying the effects of that service for the rest of his life. After the war, he returned home to build a distinguished career in law and public service. Richardson served in both houses of the Tennessee General Assembly before representing Tennessee in the U.S. Congress for 2 decades, eventually becoming House Minority Leader. He also became a noted historian, compiling the messages and papers of the Confederacy and preserving important records of Southern history for future generations. Remembered as a devoted Tennessean, Richardson's life stands as a lasting example of service to his state, his people, and his heritage. To learn more historical facts about Confederate veterans, visit TennesseeSCV.org. And we thank you for listening to Tennessee Tuesday here on this Tuesday, April the 21st. It's episode number 15 of season 2. Glad to have you here with us this evening. We do appreciate Roy Hudson being our guest tonight and enjoyed hearing about his platform for the upcoming election at SCV National Reunion in Lexington in July. So now we need to go through a few things here in Tennessee Division business here from our, of course, reunion over the weekend. But a couple of things we want to touch on here first. I know when Jason Boshears was on us last week, we talked a little bit about the World War I monument that came out of Memphis that has been worked on there at Elm Springs, and you can see that photograph where they poured the concrete, getting ready to pour that there in the picture. And here is the final monument after it's been erected that will be dedicated on May the 2nd at the pilgrimage, which will take place at Elm Springs. We'll talk a little bit more about that event coming up in just a little bit, but do want to show you this little clip that Jason had of what the monument is looking like.
This is an update on the World War I monument. It is in place. It has been mudded. Now, we're not going to be able to clean it because we have to let the mud set. So all that's left is 2 things. One is the cleaning, which will be done next week. And we will be putting the flagpole in next week as well. So you can expect some further updates in the next few days. Wanted to give everybody a good view of the plaque.
And there you see that update there, and there's a photograph again of the World War I monument that'll be dedicated at the pilgrimage, which is coming up. This will be on May the 2nd. Of course, our very own Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy will be the master of ceremonies there for the day. You see the activities at 11 o'clock, the dedication of the World War I monument. Then at 1, the Confederate Memorial Service. And then there's the keynote address there So it's going to be a great evening and a great day throughout the day at Elm Springs. That's coming up on May the 2nd with the grounds opening at 9 o'clock and closing at 4. A chance for you to tour the museum, and Strings of Secession will also be providing music for the day. So that's going to be a good time. Got my plans made and hotel booked to be at the Pilgrimage and Confederate Memorial Service at Elm Springs. We also want to go ahead and mention this event, and I'm going to let Roy jump back on here with us as well. This is coming up, our Army of Tennessee workshop and reunion that was scheduled for May the 2nd. Roy, I believe that Carl has decided to call this event off, right?
Yes, sir. It's been canceled.
So we're looking at, I know I've seen some of his social media posts, maybe to reschedule that in the future to get more involved and maybe even bring some digital format to that online that make it available to folks. So we appreciate the speakers that were willing to participate, and hopefully we'll be able to reschedule that in the future.
I sure hope so. I was looking forward to it. And a matter of fact, I got my check returned today in the mail. So
well, we'll look at rescheduling that in the future. Also, another event coming up, the Battle of Paris commemoration will take place on May 8th and 9th in Paris. There, Camp 109 does a great job organizing this event as they reenact the Battle of Paris. The Tennessee Division will be there with a recruitment booth. Rich Garcia, myself will be there. I believe Sean Hill is going to visit for a while with us. Of course, the local camp. A good event there that takes place in Henry County in West Tennessee. Also, another event coming up, historic Collinsville. This will be Civil War Days, June the 12th through the 14th, and you can see the details there. The ages and the cost for you to participate and see of all the events that will be going on in the reenactments. Civil War Days, June the 12th through the 14th at historic Collinsville in Tennessee. Also, Roy, this is one you're going to be attending this year, I know, the Forest Homecoming and Southern Heritage Festival. This will be on Saturday, June the 20th. It'll be 9 until 4. Admission is $10, and kids 6 and under free. Of course, you have the reenactors there with the cavalry, infantry, and artillery demonstrations. There's music. There'll be plenty of food and drinks, sutler set up, buy some things, take home with you, many different history lectures and speakers and home tours. If you've never seen the Nathan Bedford Forest home there in Chapel Hill, it's definitely worth a visit. Roy, is this your first time, or have you been before?
Oh, I've been there. I was there when General Forrest was laid out there during the reinterment thing. Was there, so yeah, I've seen the house. I'm looking forward. I understand that they're getting closer to getting that pavilion built, so I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Forest Hall. We talked a little bit about that at our division reunion this weekend, and construction is just about ready to get underway. There's a few changes had to be made to some brackets. So hopefully that'll get underway in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Probably won't be finished by our event, but at least we'll have some construction underway for Forest Hall, and that pavilion will open up a lot of doors for us, and then we'll pick up in phase number 2 to enclose all of that and add another addition on. So there'll be more fundraising efforts towards that. A shout out to Gene Andrews and all his work that he does there at the Boyhood Home, and all the others that volunteer their time to take care of that beautiful property. Also, another event is the Confederate History Month commemoration. This has been happening for several years in Fayetteville, there in the Lincoln County Courthouse Square. That will be coming up this Saturday. Again, that begins at 11 o'clock, continues till around 2. There's music and speakers and a good program and a wreath laying opportunity there. Been for several years. Again, a great job there by the camp organizing that in Fayetteville, and James Patterson, of course, helps lead that event. Also, another event that's coming up this weekend that I'll be attending, this will be in Union City. This will be a fundraiser for the monument that you see in this picture here, the Unknown Confederate Soldiers Monument in Union City in Obion County in West Tennessee. It's known as the oldest monument to the South. It's erected in 1869 there, and it's been restored a few times over the years, but it's time for a restoration again. Roy, as you know, any kind of old monument and house and structure, they always need some work, and this is one that needs it. And this will be a fundraiser that will take place coming up this Saturday. I believe you had to have advanced notice to them if you're going to eat, but if you'd still like to come and participate and donate to this cause, reach out to Brigade Commander Barry Sowell, and he'll get you that information. So there's another event that's coming up this weekend. Also, a shout out there to Camp 176 again in Union City, and the camp commander there, Randall, and the work he was doing at Discovery Park in Union City for their military days. The SCV set up there with a booth inside this year, and a good opportunity to promote our organization. So we appreciate Camp 176, sending that into us as well. And now let's go ahead and talk about our Tennessee Division reunion, which took place in Morristown this past weekend. A great time, a beautiful area of Tennessee and East Tennessee. And a shout out to the camp there at the Bradford Rose Camp and the Sam Davis UDC for organizing this a great event. We started Friday night with a meet and greet at the Longstreet Museum there in Russellville. Then Saturday morning, we had the business session, which took place inside this beautiful facility there, the Morristown Landing, a very nice new facility. And then there's a photograph of some of those in attendance at the very beginning of the meeting for the Tennessee Division reunion, and a couple of more photographs of some of us during the session. You see myself at the podium there, our Lieutenant Commanders, Rich Garcia and Sean Hill there just below me in that photograph, and those in attendance. It was a great time this past weekend in Morristown. Got the business of the organization done and some good fellowship, good business meeting. Of course, we had a lot to do on Saturday. Of course, there's our banquet dinner, but let's jump ahead to these photographs here as we got to dedicate a Confederate monument. That's not something you get to do at a lot of different events, especially a division reunion. There, the Longstreet Museum. Jordy Barnett led that as camp commander and got that monument put up. And it is erected now there on the site. There you can see us getting ready to unveil that monument. That took place on Saturday afternoon. And then there's some of the crowd on hand that attended the ceremony for the unveiling. We had a program, several different local officials spoke, and SCV members and representatives from the UDC and Children of the Confederacy, and a good crowd on hand. Well over 100 people, I believe, were there for that event. So that was very, very nice to be a part of that. And then there's another photograph of us around the monument. And here's another photograph, too, of the side of the Longstreet Museum there in Russellville, and a great museum and interior. If you've never seen this home, it's been several years since I'd got to see it in person, and they've done so much improvement, so many new things added, and exhibits as well inside this historic home that General Longstreet used as his headquarters. And there's one of the exhibits that is set up again. So a great time in Morristown. And here's a few more photographs we'll share from the reunion and the business session. There's Jim Collinsworth, our division chaplain. They're doing our memorial service and remembrance service of those that had passed away. Past Division Commander Mike Beck holding the opening ceremonies there and talking about the things for the activities of the weekend. And then here's an image of all of us, or some of us, I think a few may had already squeezed out there, of our division for the division reunion. So it was a good time over the weekend. Claudia Chapman there bringing greetings from the Tennessee OCR there to the crowd. And then here's some of the other speakers that are seeking office. Of course, Forrest Dawes for Army of Tennessee Councilman. We appreciate him there. And then Charles LeRae spoke as well, who's seeking Lieutenant Commander in Chief, that was there present. And James Patterson also was present as he's seeking the position of Army of Tennessee Commander. So they had an opportunity there to speak. There's another photograph inside. And then finally, from our division reunion, James Patterson gave this award here to James Turner, a very serious award with courage. Not so serious, but again, a good time at our division reunion. We do want to make some announcements this evening of officer elections. Here's those that were elected to the Tennessee division. The command staff, you see yours truly, Richard Garcia and Sean Hill. We were reelected to our positions as the command staff. Mountain Brigade there, Memphis Brigade, Sam Watkins Brigade, the Hunley Brigade, Vaughn's Brigade, as well as Fort Donaldson, Jeffrey Forest, Shiloh, Highland, Starnes, McLemoresville, and Longstreet Brigade. I'm not going to read every bit of that. As you can see that on the screen, those that were elected to whether it be commander for the brigade or lieutenant commanders as well. So there's that list of individuals, and congratulations to them. And thank you to them for being willing to serve. Also, during our business session, a motion was made there to support and endorse James Patterson from the Tennessee Division for his seeking the office of SCV Army of Tennessee Commander. Of course, James, a native of Tennessee, and at the reunion voted unanimously to show our full support and endorsement of James Patterson. And that took place on Saturday. So it was a great time at our Tennessee Division reunion. Thank you for all of those that came out, that were a part of a great event. And finally, as we get ready to wrap up tonight, I do want to tell you, if you live in Tennessee and you do not have an SCV tag for your vehicle or motorcycle, encourage you to go to your county clerk's office and get one of those. A portion of the funds that come in from those go back to the Tennessee Division to fund the many great projects that we work on to honor our ancestors, and also help support the Tennessee State Museum with the preservation and restoration of artifacts, of Confederate artifacts there at the State Museum. TennesseeSCV.org is where you go to learn more about our division and our tags as well. And we do thank you for listening this evening. We thank Roy Hudson for joining us tonight, who is Army of Tennessee Councilman and seeking the position of Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief in the SCV in July. We thank Roy for being with us tonight. And that will wrap up this edition of Tennessee Tuesday. Look forward to being back with you next Tuesday night. I do hope you have yourself a wonderful weekend. Again, thank you for all those that have been on with us this evening and watching. We say thank you, and we'll see you next week. Take care, and God bless.